I snatched the top spot in our year from Alicia Charlton. And the very next day, her childhood sweetheart asked me out. With his devilishly handsome face, he asked, "Want to join my world and be a poor student with me?" Though I knew he was a honey-coated trap. I couldn't resist the temptation. From then on, I stopped studying, stopped learning, and recklessly hung out with him, spiraling downwards. On the day our A-levels ended, he kissed me for the first time, asking me to join him at a polytechnic. I realized then that this had been his true motive for getting close to me all along. But this time, I just waved my Cambridge acceptance letter at him. "It's been fun hanging out with you this year," I said. "But my future's too important. I'm afraid I'll have to pass." Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. On the day I overheard Cuthbert and Alicia talking, I had just estimated my A-level scores. 720. This was the same as last year's top performer in the county. I had just breathed a sigh of relief when I heard Alicia's familiar voice behind the door. "Cuthbert, don't forget, you haven't won our bet yet. You'll only win if you get Miriam to go to a polytechnic with you." Cuthbert clearly didn't take her words seriously. "Can't you see her current grades? Barely passing. What good university could she possibly get into?" Alicia argued, "But her foundation was so good, what if? Even if she performs exceptionally well, isn't it just a matter of me saying the word about which school she attends?" Hearing this, the others who had been standing quietly on the side immediately burst into laughter. Those who usually called me friend with enthusiasm were now using the most vicious language to mock me. Given how Miriam fawns over Cuthbert, forget about going to polytechnic together. She'd be over the moon even if they were picking up rubbish together. Exactly. Everyone at Central High knows that to be with Cuthbert, she went from top of the class to dead last. Is there anything this love-obsessed freak wouldn't do? Then came another burst of knowing laughter. I heard every word clearly, but I wasn't bothered at all. If King Lear could give up his kingdom for his daughter's flattery, what's the big deal about me putting on an act and getting a few last places to make a handsome man like Cuthbert happy? Someone else, seemingly struck by a thought, joked teasingly, "Alicia, if Miriam knew this was all your revenge, she'd probably hate you to death." Alicia rolled her eyes at him in disgust. "Idiot, isn't that obvious? No need to even ask." But this time, they were wrong. I don't hate Alicia at all. On the contrary, I'm very grateful to her. After all, for someone like me with a face so plain, it wouldn't leave an impression even if I smashed it into a lump of dough. The chance to be with a handsome like Cuthbert Langley was hand-delivered by her, Alicia Charlton. From a young age, I knew that all my skill points were allocated to studying texts that others took ages to memorize. I could recite backwards after just one read. I grasped concepts instantly and solved difficult problems with ease. But I also knew that in this mediocre town, standing out too much wasn't a good thing. So, even though I had to come first every year for the scholarship, my scores were always within 5 points of Alicia, who was second. There was only one exception. The day before the monthly test, I saw Cuthbert and Alicia kissing outside the exam hall. The handsome boy and the pretty, delicate girl. It should have been a scene beautiful as a comic book. But I was incredibly jealous. During the maths exam, I couldn't help but answer an extra long question. In the physics exam, I defiantly got all the multiple choice questions correct. In that monthly test, I scored a full 35 points higher than Alicia. Afterwards, I regretted my lack of self-control for several days. Until the third day, when Cuthbert appeared before me. He was wearing a bright yellow number 23 jersey, jogging towards me with an apologetic look on his handsome face. "I'm sorry, my ball went off course and hit you. Are you all right? Should I take you to the school nurse?" I could tell with my eyes closed that this basketball coming straight for me was no accident. Just as I knew perfectly well that Cuthbert's deliberate approach to me must be because of Alicia. Perhaps to get revenge for her, or perhaps because of a bet with her. But whatever the reason, it was my only chance to get close to Cuthbert. Yes, it's true. I want Cuthbert Langley. From the very first moment I laid eyes on him. I must admit, Cuthbert's appearance couldn't have been more timely. For the 17 years before he showed up, I had only one dream. When my father, drunk as a skunk, would rain blows upon me like a violent storm. When my mother, trying to save up a dowry for my brother, attempted to sell 13-year-old me to a 50-year-old widower looking for a second wife. Get into the best university and escape this place. I never forgot this, not for a moment, never daring to slack off. Later, even when I casually picked up an A-level past paper in maths, I could still easily achieve full marks. I knew then that the best universities in Britain were well within my reach. I was just waiting for next year's A-levels to hit the bullseye. Then I looked back on my drab 17 years of life, filled only with a depressing childhood and mind-numbing studying. That day, BBC One was replaying Love Actually. As I watched Colin's handsome and rakish face on the screen, I zoned out for a long while. If only I could have a romance with such a handsome lad at 17. How wonderful that would be. And then Cuthbert appeared. He was even younger and more handsome than Colin in Love Actually. As he moved, his jersey subtly hinted at his lean muscles, also stirring my most secret desires. I wanted him, but I couldn't have him. As I said before, all my skill points were allocated to studying. Apart from that, I was utterly ordinary, indistinguishable from the crowd. The type that Cuthbert, always at the center of attention, wouldn't give a second glance. But now, he had been hand-delivered to me by Alicia. I seemed utterly oblivious, willingly accepting each of Cuthbert's deliberate approaches thereafter. In the bustling canteen, in the deserted sports hall after the crowds had dispersed, Cuthbert always managed to engineer a chance encounter with me. The time he lingered in my presence grew longer, his gaze upon me increasingly fervent. Then finally, one day, he parted the crowd and walked towards me. "Miriam, I like you. Will you be with me?" As I fell into his embrace, I pretended not to notice the disdain he tried to conceal behind his long lashes. I simply closed my eyes and deeply inhaled his pleasant scent. A mix of licorice and laundry detergent. The old saying in books lie golden houses. In books lie beauty's fair as jade rang true. But I also knew this beauty would only belong to me briefly. Perhaps he would soon end this game of revenge, publicly dumping me to appease his childhood sweetheart. Or maybe he wanted to play longer, letting me fall deeper before calling it off abruptly. What I didn't anticipate was that this Cuthbert's purpose in approaching me was to shatter my golden house. The first time I realized this was at the internet cafe. I was quietly working on my A-level study guide next to Cuthbert's computer. The man, originally focused on his game, suddenly yanked off his headphones in irritation. Hearing his movement, I looked up and asked what was wrong. He stared at me for a long moment, then spoke with darkened eyes. "I don't like you doing practice papers when you're with me." Eager to accommodate my handsome companion, I put the papers away, tossing them aside. "Then I won't do them." He continued staring at me, his expression growing colder. "I feel the gap between us is too wide." "I don't like that." Realizing what he meant, my heart began to race. "Then, what do you think would be better?" He suddenly leaned in close, his forehead nearly touching mine, his tone almost wheedling. "Can't you just be a poor student like me?" The blue glow of the screen silently illuminated his glass bead-like eyes, as he invited me like a siren luring its prey. "Miriam, come into my world. Stay with me forever." In that moment, I was nearly ecstatic. So this was what he wanted. This was what Alicia wanted. I hooked my arm around his neck, caressing those red lips I had longed for. "Kiss me," I whispered. I knew Cuthbert didn't like me, nor did he enjoy my touch. In the past, I never dared to make any bold moves, fearing he might recoil and end this game at any moment. But now, if he wanted something from me, it was only fair and necessary to make an exchange, wasn't it? When those soft, cool lips finally hesitantly pressed against mine, I silently thanked my past self for the 12 years of diligent study. "Miriam Bowden, the heavens truly haven't forsaken you." I stopped studying and revising, recklessly spending my time with Cuthbert, indulging in his wayward lifestyle. Consequently, my rankings began to drop, one after another. The first time, of course, was when I lost the top spot to Alicia. When the teacher announced first in the year, followed by her name for the first time, Alicia was overjoyed. She looked at her report card again and again, finally burying her head in her arms, unable to hold back her sobs. I didn't miss the smug glance she cast towards my report card, but I pretended not to notice. I just quietly thought to myself, it's time to claim my reward. Sure enough, Cuthbert was in high spirits that day. He came running towards me from afar, his school uniform billowing in the breeze, filled with sunlight. Perhaps that's why, when he embraced me, I still felt a warmth. I asked him why he was so happy. He smiled and said he had won a brilliant football match today. I smiled too, pretending not to know that the brilliant football match was entirely fictitious. I smiled and placed a hotel key card in his palm. It's my 18th birthday today. Will you celebrate with me? Physical intimacy can dissolve many barriers without a trace. Cuthbert hadn't realized his unconscious affection, nor had he noticed his instinctive possessiveness. That categorized me as his inner circle. But Alicia, being a woman herself, keenly perceived the subtle changes in our relationship. She began to feel threatened. After another night of passion with Cuthbert, Alicia cornered me aggressively in the bathroom. She stared at the faint love bites peeking out from my collar, her eyes blazing with fury that almost materialized. Yet, she managed to contain herself and said sarcastically, "You and Cuthbert certainly have a lot of energy. Don't you get bored doing the same thing over and over?" I carefully adjusted my collar in the mirror to conceal the marks, before turning to her with a sweet smile. "If I'm not spending my energy on my boyfriend, where should I be spending it?" "On," I drawled. "Studying?" I was reminding her. "A man, or good grades. Alicia could only have one." That day, Alicia left defeated. I still remember the expression on her face. Beyond the surging anger, there was a look of "you just wait" hidden beneath her fury. And today, it seems, is the day she plans to teach me a lesson. The onlookers quickly took the hint and left, leaving the space for the two main characters. Through the crack in the door, I saw Alicia settle into Cuthbert's lap, eagerly wrapping her arms around his neck. "Cuthbert, it's been so long since we've been intimate." Once she's filled out her UCAS application, you need to dump her and come back to me. I promised you I would. As long as you help me ruin that tramp, I'll give myself to you. With that, she leaned in to kiss Cuthbert's lips, but he turned his head away. Perhaps even he didn't understand why. After avoiding the kiss, a faint confusion passed through his eyes. I leaned against the wall, unable to suppress a silent chuckle. Cuthbert was born a flirt. Even when he was with Alicia, he was still flirting around without any restraint. But on the day he confessed to me, I said to him, "I agree to be your girlfriend. However, there can't be anyone else besides me in your life." Cuthbert, of course, readily agreed. Yet he still kissed pretty girls on the school grounds. And there were still countless attractive girls riding on the back of his motorcycle. I silently dismissed my own words as if they were nothing, covering my eyes to be blind and covering my ears to be deaf. Because I had no leverage. Until that day in the internet cafe, I discovered my leverage. I never mentioned again that he couldn't have anyone else around him. But whenever he got close to other girls, I would say nothing, just pick up my bag and head to the study room. Then, in the next exam rankings, I would quietly climb up a page. So Cuthbert compromised. He began to actively avoid every girl around him, even Alicia, his childhood sweetheart. And I reciprocated, firmly securing my position on the last report card. Cuthbert's most beautiful and vibrant time finally belonged to me alone. Completely and entirely. I was very satisfied. Alicia, however, could no longer contain her outburst. "You hide from me in front of Miriam, and now that she's not here, you still act like you're preserving your chastity for her. Cuthbert, don't tell me you've actually fallen for that bookworm." Cuthbert's expression changed slightly as he impatiently pushed her away. "Wasn't it you who insisted on making that bet?" If I hadn't been keeping myself pure for her. How do you think you got all those first places? Now that you've got what you wanted, you're turning on me? I never asked you to go this far. Alicia exclaimed, grabbing his collar in agitation. Where did you two go for the past 2 weeks after A-levels? What did you do with that witch? Tell me. What did we do? Well, naturally, what adults do. From dusk till dawn, without cease. Deep down, both Cuthbert and I knew this was a prelude to farewell. So we were particularly invested. Of course, Cuthbert couldn't say these things out loud. He remained silent, turning his head away, his fingers unconsciously fiddling with the burned-out cigarette butt. Alicia stomped her foot in anger, raising her hand as if to slap him. But in the end, she just hooked her arm around his neck and kissed him again, filled with resentment. This time, Cuthbert didn't dodge. I lightly gripped the windowsill with one hand, silently counting down in my head. Cuthbert loved deep kisses. When he kissed, he always liked to gently bite the corner of the other person's mouth first, nibbling and nuzzling like a rodent until you were itching with desire. Only then would he suddenly pry open your teeth, conquering thoroughly, until the last breath of oxygen was consumed between you. This process took exactly 2 minutes. My fingers tapped unhurriedly, just as the silver thread from the entangled lips of the two inside spilled out. I raised my hand and pushed open the door. The moment I opened the door, I had intended to stage a scene of catching them in the act. But as the door swung open, I suddenly thought, what's the point of petty drama? Why not go straight for the main event? In an instant, I switched to a look of surprise, gazing at the flustered pair before me. Just the two of you? Where's everyone else? Weren't we all supposed to check our results together? That's right. Today was the day A-level results were released. In previous years, everyone would check their results at home and then send screenshots to the school for tallying. But this year, the headmaster had suddenly proposed that all exam candidates come to school to check their results together. I knew this was the idea of his precious daughter, Alicia. Firstly, Alicia had estimated her score at 656. The highest grade ever achieved in the history of this rather unremarkable county high school. Of course, she needed us NPCs as her cheering audience for her moment of triumph. Secondly, she was eager to see with her own eyes how I, her former arch-rival who had always outperformed her, had now been dragged into the mud and thoroughly crushed under her feet. Cuthbert's panicked expression hadn't yet faded. When he heard my innocuous question, his brow began to slowly unfurrow. Just as he was about to respond, I changed tack. But why are your lips so red? Have you eaten something that disagrees with you? Well, even if I wasn't going to make a scene, it wouldn't hurt to trip up that cheating rubbish a bit, would it? Cuthbert's body suddenly went rigid. Before he could stammer out a lie, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed from the corridor. Moments later, the headmaster burst into the classroom, followed by a bustling crowd. Come on, set up the camera here. Is the live stream signal tested? And the microphone quickly confirmed the equipment. I watched the chaotic scene unfold before me, slowly curling my lips into a smile. It seemed he wanted to record his daughter's moment of glory and broadcast it live for all to see. Since our dear headmaster had gone to such trouble, why don't I use his stage to perform this grand spectacle to its fullest? The headmaster's arrival interrupted the delicate conversation between Cuthbert and me. He let out a quiet sigh of relief and quickly pulled me towards the computers. It's almost 9 o'clock. Let's find a spot quickly. I discreetly avoided his hand and simply replied, all right. As 9 o'clock approached, the students quickly filled the room. The first batch to claim their spots nervously sweated over the results button on their screens, while those queuing behind were itching to push the button themselves. Soon, exclamations echoed throughout the crowded computer room. I've broken 600? Mom, your son's made it. I can bloody well get into a uni now. Bollocks. Did they mark it wrong? How did I only get 68 in physics? Damn. While others' results were coming through, Alicia's page kept freezing, nearly causing her to curse out loud. But as she opened her mouth, she saw all the cameras pointed at her and swallowed her words. Finally, after another refresh, her results appeared. Alicia's eyes widened as she scanned down the results page. 660. That's 4 points more than I estimated. Dad! Dad! I can go to Edinburgh! She jumped up from her seat excitedly, hugging the equally red-faced headmaster. Many viewers watching the live stream could relate to this life-changing moment. And the comments section flooded with congratulations. Congratulations to this young lady on her academic success. About to embark on a new chapter in life. To achieve such results in a place with limited educational resources is no small feat. You should be proud, love. Thumbs up. Alicia was already in tears of joy, thanking the commenters while wiping her eyes. After bowing once more with a thank you everyone, her gaze unexpectedly fell on me. As our eyes met, her lips immediately curled into a pleased smile. She eagerly pointed at me, introducing me to the viewers. You know, I wasn't actually the top of our year before. This is Miriam Bowden. She deliberately dragged out her words. She was the top of our year for a whole year, you know. The comments immediately urged. Well, let her check her results then. Let's see the standard of the year's top student. Seeing this comment, Alicia was almost dying of glee inside. But her face deliberately showed a regretful expression. It's just that later, our classmate here got caught up in a romance. And her grades plummeted. Now she'd be lucky to even get 400 points. The comments at this point were flying faster than ever before. But instead of mockery, they were filled with heartfelt concern. Child, when you grow up, you'll realize how foolish it is to let a fleeting romance affect your studies. To think she was once top of the year, what a shame. I know, I regret not studying hard in sixth form so much. My old friends all got into good universities and have great jobs now. And I'm the only one. If I had another chance, I'd give it my all, no regrets. Sigh, but these things, only those who've been through it understand. Don't be sad, young lady. It's never too late to try in life, especially when you're only 18. Once you get over this hurdle, you'll have a chance to start anew. These weren't the responses Alicia wanted to hear. Her face darkened for a moment before she forced another smile and started urging me. That's right. It's never too late. Come on, Miriam, check your results. Let's see, from what point you'll start trying again after A-levels. Cuthbert had already checked his results. An exact 400 points. Looking at my hesitant hand, he offered what might have been sincere or insincere consolation. Miriam, don't be afraid. Your scores have always been a few points higher than mine. I got 400, so you're bound to get 400 plus. We can apply to the same polytechnic in Edinburgh together. We'll still be together then. Oh. Even wanting me to follow him to a polytechnic in Edinburgh. He wants to ensure I can't escape the humiliation of being his mistress. For the next 4 years of university. These two are truly ruthless. At Alicia's pointed look, all the cameras zoomed in on me. Everyone, including the 50,000 plus viewers in the live stream, had their eyes fixed on my results page. Hurry up, Miriam, everyone's waiting. Alicia urged impatiently once more. I smiled. All right. Then I reached for the mouse. Miriam, don't be upset. A polytechnic isn't that bad. Sure, the teaching quality might be poor, but at least the tuition is expensive. And while job prospects are grim, the facilities are also subpar. The next second, as the screen refreshed, Alicia's smug smile froze on her face. She screamed, "What is this? Impossible! Dad! Dad! Quick, call the IT support. The system must be glitching. Hurry up and call." But at this moment, no one paid any attention to her outburst. When a row of blank scores and a line of black text clearly appeared on the live broadcast screen, the comments seemed to pause for a second before scrolling like a whirlwind. Bloody hell! Am I seeing this right? Blank scores. Top 50 in the county. A private candidate, blimey. Wasn't she supposed to go to a polytechnic? What are you playing at, Girl. Lucky I popped in out of boredom. I reckon I'm about to witness the birth of a top scorer, Lord have mercy. You're dreaming, mate. Sure, top 50 is impressive, but the top scorer? There's only one in the whole county. The odds are astronomical. The next moment, my phone on the table received a text notification. Hello, Miriam Bowden. This is Dr. Fawcett from the University of Oxford admissions team for W County. Congratulations on your outstanding A-level results. We'll be there at 2 p.m. this afternoon too. The comments froze again for 2 seconds. Blimey! Oxford's already knocking? At this speed, she must be the top scorer. Absolutely must be, ladies. Oxford admissions rushing over, Cambridge lot probably en route too. Bloody hell, how can someone's life be this brilliant? I wouldn't dare dream this big even in my wildest fantasies. Oi, clear off, you lot. Stop nattering about useless stuff. Come here, love, let Auntie bask in your good fortune. My useless daughter could use some of that luck. Sharing the luck +1. Cuthbert stared at the unfolding scene in disbelief, his gaze losing focus from the successive shocks until Alicia, finally unable to accept reality, began screaming hysterically. Only then did he suddenly awaken as if from a trance and turn towards me. Mere. But before he could utter a word, he was pushed out of the crowd by the swarming reporters. He was just a nameless bystander. How could he compare to the county's first ever top A-level scorer? Never mind him, even the headmaster and his daughter, who had invited these reporters, were now shouting themselves hoarse. But no one was willing to spare them a glance. Alicia could only rage impotently on the sidelines. The live stream reached a record-breaking 1 million+ viewers. As countless clips went viral, my name suddenly became the hottest topic of conversation across the nation. People were fascinated by this incredible story of a polytechnic student getting into Cambridge. Curiosity about whether I was truly the top scorer reached fever pitch. Rumor has it that someone even set up a betting pool on whether the polytechnic girl could clinch the A-level top score, with participants reportedly exceeding 7 figures. 3 days later, when my A-level results were leaked, the internet exploded. With a raw score of 726 points, I had broken the record for the highest score in W County. Even fiction wouldn't dare to be this dramatic. We're witnessing the birth of a legend. That evening, the BBC itself shared a clip of my live result reveal, captioning it, "They say it's harder than ever for working-class students to excel. Yet here's a young woman who soared against all odds." Meanwhile, many spectators rewatching the live stream keenly noticed the subtle atmosphere between Cuthbert, Alicia, and me. Central High School students, who had been holding their tongues, finally saw an opportunity to spill the tea. They rushed online. As a Central High student, I can reveal that Cuthbert used to be Alicia's boyfriend. Later, Alicia got upset that Miriam took her top spot in the year. It wasn't taken, Alicia just couldn't keep up. So she got the handsome slacker Cuthbert to seduce Miriam, making her skip classes to drink and party every day, trying to ruin her. But guess what? Our legend Miriam is a true genius. She pretended to be falling apart, always scoring last to fool those two nasties. But she was actually preparing for her grand finale. She knocked them out with her A-level results. We all saw how Alicia broke down during the live stream, right? As a Central High nobody who's suffered under Alicia's bullying, I'm cheering out loud. Well done, Goddess Miriam. You're brilliant. Blimey, so this is a story of a top student who saw through the plot of the scumbag and his nasty girlfriend, played along with the hot guy who came onto her, then turned around and got into Cambridge. Even fiction wouldn't dare to be this wild. Goddess Miriam is my one true deity, sleeping with the school bad boy while acing her A-levels. And getting into Cambridge, she's an icon. When Cuthbert called me, I happened to be scrolling through this thread, thoroughly enjoying the comments. Actually, he had been trying to contact me frantically since the day the results were announced. But I had no time for him. I was busy managing my social media accounts across various platforms. Viral fame is fleeting, I had to seize the moment. My path had been rough, and the future was uncertain. There would be many expenses ahead. I started offering online tutoring sessions. While compiling my study notes from the past 2 years of sixth form, I carefully summarized my learning methods and launched a saleable digital version of my top scorers' notes. Riding on my current popularity, it became an instant bestseller. Countless students who purchased it came to my comments section to express their gratitude, saying it had given them direction in their struggling studies, and hoping I would continue to share more diverse content. With this positive feedback loop, sales of the top scorers' notes soared. On the day sales broke six figures and revenue passed the £1,000,000 mark. I looked at the girl with sparkling eyes in the mirror and let out a long sigh of relief. I had finally laid the first brick of my golden house. I had finally carved out a bright future for myself, free from the haze of uncertainty. I had intended to hang up on Cuthbert's call as usual, but the line went dead on its own. At the same moment, several text messages popped up. "It's my birthday today. Could you come and see me? I've sent you a local courier delivery. I'll wait for you until you come." The doorbell rang. The package had arrived. It was a room key card, identical to the one I had given him a year ago. How amusing. The story had come full circle, but Cuthbert and I had swapped roles. The door to room 401 wasn't fully closed. I pushed it open and was immediately enveloped in Cuthbert's tight embrace. His grip was so strong it felt as if he was trying to meld me into his flesh. I felt warm droplets falling on my neck. "I don't care if you lied to me," he whispered. "I don't care if your grades are good or bad. I just want to be with you. Whatever city you go to, I'll follow. If you want to go to Cambridge, I'll apply to a school in Cambridge. We can always be together, can't we? Can't we?" He looked up at me, his beautiful eyes brimming with tears. I reached out, my fingertips gently caressing his hair, just as I had done during our intimate moments before. But the words that left my lips were ice cold. "Won't Alicia be angry? You've lost the bet, Cuthbert." The color drained from his face in an instant. "So you did hear." He cupped my face, his voice trembling. "It's not like that, Miriam. That was before, when I didn't know you, didn't understand you. I only agreed to that bet because Alicia provoked me. But I regret it. I've regretted it for so long. I've only just realized my true feelings, Miriam. I like you, I really like you. What happened before, can't we just let it go? Can we start over?" His eyes were filled with an expectation that was hard to refuse. "But I'm Miriam Bowden, and I can be cruel." So, meeting his hopeful gaze, I spoke softly. "Did you hear that, Alicia?" Cuthbert froze. Then he looked down and saw my phone, still on a call with Alicia. Alicia's voice came through like a demon crawling out of hell, each word dripping with hatred and venom. "Miriam, you witch. You think you've won? Let me tell you, don't celebrate too soon. So what if you got into Cambridge? A commoner like you, I have plenty of ways to crush you. And Cuthbert, you think you still have a chance with this wretch? Let me tell you, she knew all along. She knew about our plan from the start. She was just using you to get back at me. You were nothing but a tool for her revenge, a walking vibrator. Now that she's done with you, she'll toss you aside like rubbish." Bang! Cuthbert smashed the phone against the wall, instantly silencing it. Anger and fear made his whole body tremble. He opened his mouth, trying to speak, but couldn't utter a word. After a long silence, he suddenly lunged forward and kissed me. His hands frantically tore at my collar. I didn't dodge. Didn't resist. I let him do as he pleased. In the past, whenever I caught him getting entangled with girls and came to study, this was how he would appease me. In Cuthbert's mind, he probably thought there was nothing in this world that couldn't be solved with a good shag. But oh, Cuthbert, how could you be so naive? His breathing grew heavier, and my clothes gradually fell away. Then, everything came to an abrupt halt. When Cuthbert kissed a certain spot on my chest, he suddenly recoiled as if burned, his eyes widening. "What happened to your body?" he asked, his voice trembling. I smiled and pointed to the grotesque scar. You mean this? This is where your childhood sweetheart burned me with a candle. And here, I continued, pointing to another mark nearby. She said I was worthless, yet dared to desire things I didn't deserve. So she used a compass to carve the word worthless on my chest, to remind me of my lowly status at all times. Though Cuthbert and I had been intimate countless times. Thanks to the cover of darkness. This was the first time he'd seen these scars on my body. Courtesy of his childhood sweetheart. His mind went blank, and he struggled to get up, but I wouldn't let him. I firmly grasped his shaking hand and guided it down to my waist. And here, I said, indicating a small patch of missing flesh, where blood vessels were visible beneath, looking rather gruesome without the protective layer of skin. She set her dog on me, I explained. It bit and tore at my flesh. She said this way I'd remember the pain and learn my lesson. Cuthbert's voice began to quaver. Why would she do such things? For the same reason you got close to me, of course, I replied. I looked down at him, caressing his flawless face. Cuthbert, have you ever wondered why Alicia, the headmaster's daughter, would resort to using you when she had so many other ways? To crush an insect like me? It's because I had blocked all her other options. I've been bullied by Alicia at school for a long time now. It all started on the day I came first in my year. During my first term at Central High School. She cornered me in the girls' toilets, slapping my face with her used sanitary pad. I was top of the year for 3 years in secondary school. And now you've come along and snatched it from me, she snarled. She crumpled up the blood-stained, filthy thing and shoved it forcefully into my mouth. Think you're so clever, do you? Let's see how clever you feel now. Swallow it. Don't you dare spit it out. I'll smash your face in if you do. I'm not the kind of weakling who stays silent when bullied. So I told my teacher. He listened in silence for a long time, then took me to the headmaster's office. The headmaster straightened his expensive suit and frowned at me. Miss Bowden, I understand my daughter may have been a bit overzealous. But don't you think taking someone else's position is also wrong? He patted my shoulder. You know, one should learn to reflect on their own faults. And know their place. Don't you agree? That's when I realized I couldn't be top of the year anymore. By then, my parents had already kicked me out for refusing to get married like a good girl. The annual scholarship was my only way to pay for school fees. Now, without the scholarship, how was I going to afford to stay in school? I found a part-time job, helping out at a small cafe after evening classes, waiting tables and washing dishes. The female owner was very kind. When there were no customers, she'd let me nap on the bench. And she was always complaining that I was too skinny, often cooking me some meat dishes to help me put on weight. But later, a regular customer who used to praise me for being so hardworking at such a young age, reported her for employing child labor. She was fined a hefty sum and had her business license revoked. I smiled bitterly. You see, life is always so hard for the poor. So, that night, I sat at the rubbish dump on the street corner all night. And then I thought, I still need to be top of the year. I need to continue my studies. I'd rather take Alicia's beatings than be ground down in a hopeless life. But guess what? Alicia didn't want to beat me anymore. She said she was tired of it. Her dear daddy said, well then, let's find a reason to expel her. Such an obtuse girl, out of sight, out of mind. You see, I struggled for so many years just to find a way out. But with one word from an important person, that path was cut off. But I can't give up. I need to provoke Alicia into laying hands on me one more time. I looked down at my clenched fists. The story I told Cuthbert about the monthly test was a lie I made up on the spot. It's true that I was fascinated by Cuthbert's face. But compared to my future, he was hardly worth mentioning. The reason I deliberately scored so much higher than Alicia in that monthly test wasn't for Cuthbert at all. It was because she was furious that day, cornering me in a dark alley as soon as school finished. That alley was where she often got physical. Because it was in an isolated spot, with few people around. She and her lackeys could move freely there. The painful groans would even echo, giving the aggressors double the satisfaction. That day, I was badly hurt. When I crawled out of the alley, I was covered in blood. But I knew I had found my way out. I turned my palm towards him, revealing a small black SD card. The dash cam at the entrance of the alley recorded the entire process of Alicia abusing me. I told Alicia that if she ever laid hands on me again, or if I got expelled, this video would appear on every video sharing website. Alicia thought I was mad. You're stripped naked in that video, crawling around like a dog. You dare to post something like that, Miriam? Don't you care about ruining yourself? I laughed out loud and asked her. Alicia, I'm willing to rot in the mud. Are you? Of course, she wasn't. But she couldn't accept it. So she chose to send you to my side instead. Cuthbert shook his head in disbelief. I didn't know any of this. I nodded. Of course, I knew you weren't involved in the bullying. Otherwise, sleeping with someone who bullied you would be disgusting, wouldn't it? A glimmer of hope suddenly flashed in his eyes. Then I didn't give him a chance to fantasize, interrupting him. But you aided and abetted, which is just as shameful and vicious. Ignoring his pale expression, I emphasized each word, striking at his core. So why were you angry just now? Alicia was right. I am seeking revenge on her. Why should the bullied suffer for life while the bullies live carefree and happy? I'm going to take away everything she cares about with my own hands. Her grades, her love life, her future. I'll personally send her to prison, so that every minute and every second she's in there, she'll remember that she lost everything. Because of every slap she gave, every scar she left. It's karmic retribution, it's what she deserves. And you're just one of the tools for my revenge. Cuthbert swayed slightly, and after a long moment, he asked me with difficulty. Did you really never like me at all? Of course. I liked your face, I liked your body. But I never liked you as a person. Not for a single moment, ever. As I turned to leave, a dull thud echoed from behind the door. It was the sound of Cuthbert collapsing to the floor. Without hesitation, I pushed the door open, then locked it behind me. By now, Alicia must have been taken to the police station. Before coming to see Cuthbert, I had gone to file a report at the station. I submitted the video as evidence and went to the hospital for a medical examination. Next, I would be pressing charges. I'd find the best lawyer to ensure this monster gets the punishment she deserves. Something was digging into my hand, causing a sharp pain. Looking down, I realized the SD card had cut into my palm from gripping it too tightly. Blood dripped onto the black SD card, instantly losing its color, just like that night. It had been raining heavily that evening. Alicia had left after venting her anger, and I was waiting by the car, covered in blood. After hearing my story, the car owner looked at me with pity and said, I'm sorry for your situation. But her father, Mr. Charlton, has eyes and ears everywhere in our small town. I'm sorry, but I can't risk it. I apologize. I didn't push further and turned to leave. However, the next day, this car owner stopped me on my way home from school and handed me this SD card. Seeing my still battered body, she awkwardly turned away, wiping tears from the corner of her eye. Her voice choked with emotion. I have a daughter too. No mother with a daughter could bear to watch that scene. I didn't tell her. There were 3 exits from that dark alley. That night, a car was parked near each exit, between the black BMW and the gray Volvo. I chose the 3rd exit with the pink Mini Cooper covered in Barbie crystal stickers. While Alicia was assaulting me, I desperately tried to position myself within view of this car's dash cam. You see how wicked I am. I manipulated an innocent, soft-hearted mother. But for someone who has never been favored by fate, you can only fight with everything you've got, clinging desperately to every possible advantage. I had no choice. As I left the hotel, the strong wind from earlier had died down, and the rain had stopped. The sun finally broke through the clouds, shining its light equally on everyone, including me. I blinked. Miriam Bowden. If life no longer rages with storms from now on, perhaps you'll choose to be a good person. After wavering between 2 top universities for a long time, I finally chose Cambridge. I had come a long way from an ordinary world, and I wanted to see what the world of the elite looked like. During this time, my parents, who had been absent from my life for 3 whole years, found me after seeing the news. They said they hadn't seen me in years and missed me very much. My response was to turn and run, blocking and deleting them at lightning speed. They were furious, completely losing their composure. Do you think we wanted you? You were a girl we never wanted. In this family, and in this world, no one welcomed you. You're an unwanted bastard. You should be grateful we let you live and raised you. They threatened to make me pay for their care, or else they would go to the media and expose how I had abandoned my poor parents after becoming successful, ensuring that I, the so-called most popular A-level student online, would never be able to show my face again. I said that in that case, I would post daily on my account with 1 million followers, telling everyone how this family was so poor. They couldn't even afford a wedding and wanted to sell their daughter to pay for their son's marriage. I also said I would widely publicize my elder brother's drug addiction and my younger brother's gambling debts, letting their whole family go down with my future. And so, the world finally became peaceful. In my 2nd year at university, I was invited to speak at the school assembly. I prepared that speech with unprecedented care and attention. I knew that among the audience, there might be countless children who, like me in the past, were struggling in a quagmire. That day, I wore my most presentable outfit and displayed myself before them with the most spirited demeanor. I wanted to show them what someone who had escaped the mire could become. I wanted to plant a seed in their hearts. At the end of the speech, I opened my arms towards the camera. If you find yourself in a quagmire, if everything around you is pulling you down, remember to use the thorns as your driftwood, to stack up your burdens as your stepping stones. Only you can pull yourself out of the bog, to see the wilderness, to chase the stars, to journey towards distant lands. I've taken the first step, and I'll be waiting for you on the path ahead. After stepping off the stage, a senior student, who was also one of the guest speakers, called out to me. We're planning to have dinner together after the event. Would you like to join us? I was about to say yes when I spotted a familiar face in the crowd. Our eyes met, and he turned to leave, but I called out to him. Wait. It had been over a year since Cuthbert and I last met at that hotel. His face was still as handsome as ever, but the once defiant expression was gone, replaced by a weary look between his brows. He clutched the edge of his shirt, appearing somewhat nervous. I didn't mean to bother you, he said. I just wanted to see you from afar. After saying this, he gazed at me for a long, deep moment, as if trying to condense time into a single instant, to store away and sustain his solitary reminiscence in the days to come. After a while, he finally looked away, giving a self-deprecating smile. At first, I thought that with time, even the strongest emotions would fade, and perhaps you and I might have another chance, he said. But as I watched you grow more radiant, saw your world expand, I finally realized that you're a bird meant to fly to your own mountains. Someone like me doesn't deserve for you to look back. I wasn't particularly moved by his poetic sentiments. I responded perfunctorily and handed him a bank card. There's £50,000 in this card, I said. It covers all my expenses from when we were together. Back when I first got together with Cuthbert, I had no qualms about accepting his sponsorship. My tuition, living expenses, even travel and shopping costs were all covered by Cuthbert. At that time, many people said I was shameless, taking advantage of a man. But so what? I no longer had to scrimp and save, no longer had to be cautious about every little thing. My youth could start shining at 18. Why not? Cuthbert instinctively tried to push the card back to me, but I stopped him. Cuthbert, I'm not giving you this money because I feel I owe you anything. I smiled and continued. Back then, I was simply drawing in advance on the currency of my own abilities. Now, I'm here to cash in for myself. As I turned to leave, Cuthbert called out from behind me. Miriam. I'll never meet anyone like you again in this lifetime. His voice was filled with an unshakable longing and regret. I didn't turn back, just waved my hand dismissively. Of course not. I'm one of a kind, bright as the bloody sun. Cuthbert Langley, farewell forever. The others had already gone ahead to the dinner venue. But that senior was still waiting for me at the exit. Seeing me come out, he nodded towards Cuthbert's direction. Ex-boyfriend? I nodded with a smile. Yes. He's certainly handsome, the kind of face that's hard for any girl to resist. But I suppose it'd be quite difficult to find a replacement for a face like his anywhere in the country. I raised an eyebrow, signaling him to speak his mind. He straightened up and said seriously, Miriam, now that you're at university, has your criteria for choosing a partner changed at all? He pointed to himself. For instance, someone like myself. From a respectable family, studying under renowned professors. With publications in science and nature. In a promising field, and personally driven. Do I have the honor of being considered within your range of potential suitors? I smiled silently, neither confirming nor denying. The road ahead is long, why rush to make a choice? If I continue to climb higher, there will be no shortage of spectacular views. My name is Miriam Bowden. I shall be unyielding, I shall soar. May you be the same and have a bright future.